And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. For this week's episode, we'll be talking about things that have happened in the past week or so. So first we have an actress. I don't know if she's still active, Miss Reese Witherspoon, known for her films like Legally Blonde, has created her own production company. Maybe that's why she's not active in the movie scene. Has sold her company an astonishing amount of $900 million. So how that happened? We'll take a closer look in a bit. Next is you'll be interested. So obviously, tech companies are the more prominent companies that are doing really well in this current condition, current climate, despite the pandemic. You'd be surprised how much those companies willing to pay those people or pay those salaries in the United States. So if you're interested, you might want to check it out. Next is we have a gaming company who's filing lawsuit against cheat code distributor. Now, those companies like Ubisoft have a case here. We'll take a closer look as well. Next, we also have something concerning if you're a consumer here. Now, Apple is going to install a software that can scan your photo. Now, what they're saying based on the article is they're only focusing on a particular image that they want to red flag it, but it opens a lot of can of worms. We'll talk about that in a bit. And continuing with games, a very popular game. I don't know if you played this or you're familiar. Dead Space. They're going to make a remake, which I'm kind of iffy about it because the first one was tremendous. The second and third one didn't do so well, and now they're trying to revive it. What type of game is it going to be? We don't know. And finally, for our last story, stay tuned for the end one when we talk about an earbuds that can track your health. Okay, so anyway, so to start, as mentioned, according to the article here at businessinsider.com, it mentions here that the actress, as mentioned, Reese Witherspoon, which owns a media business, it's called Hello Sunshine, has reportedly been sold, and the valuation of the company is at around $900 million. So I was surprised when I first saw this article, and I was surprised that Reese Witherspoon, the actress, has a production company that's doing really well. So what happened here is the name of the company is Hello Sunshine, as mentioned, has been sold to a media company which is owned by a private equity group named Blackstone Group. So it's sold for 900 million. So for those who are not familiar, the company Hello Sunshine started way back in 2016. A production company that produces several TV series, which was a big hit. So just to name a few, you have HBO's Big Little Lies, which I've heard. I didn't watch that. It's not geared towards me. To me. Anyway, then you have another series from Hulu, Little Fires Everywhere. Didn't watch that. Then you have Apple's TV morning, the morning show, which did really well and was even nominated for an Emmy award there. So meaning the companies that the production that been producing under the umbrella of Hello Sunshine has been doing really well, and it got the attention of other companies that who wants to invest or expand on their possibility here. And according to Miss Witherspoon herself, she mentioned that she stated, I started the company to change the way all women are seen in the media. Now, obviously, women are, I would say, not given a fair shake like the male counterpart, but in her case, she wanted to find a way, or in this case, in her statement, I am committed to continuing to create opportunity for filmmakers, authors, and creators of all backgrounds and experiences to tell their stories in their own way and to reach more audiences who will see their stories that matter. Now, obviously, if you're an actress here, that's why she's been lying low for some time, busy with managing her production company. And what's interesting here, once the company has been sold, she will still have a role to make in the company. In terms of Miss Witherspoon, and the CEO of Hello Sunshine, Sarah Harden, will now join the firm's board following the purchase here. So obviously, this brings in a lot of revenue and income for Miss Witherspoon, and obviously her goal is to help other actors, actresses, or even writers who wants to develop their own films or content that they can license to other studios and other networks, which I think the trend is going there, right? Creating your own content, owning the rights rather than having TV networks owning your content here. Anyway, and even for the company that acquired the production company for Blackstone, they mentioned that's why they have interest in the company in the first place was there was a growing interest in the media industry. Obviously, with more content has been continually being what I call this been consumed in staggering rates. It's the lockdown and everything, so it's not just watching films in the movie theater, but consuming it in streaming services, online, in your phones, tablets, or whatever is convenient to everyone here. So that they're making investments in studios, offices, and even intellectual property rights. That's why they wanted to acquire the company, which they did, so that they can grow that and generate more revenue for the business. And you know, is this the way of the future, so to speak? But for the actress Miss Witherspoon, who is a great actress on her own, well, there's a reason why she's not been active lately, or maybe there's no roles that appeals to her. But either way, on her part, it's a tremendous success on her part. Question is, uh, will the production company continue to reach the same success as it did before it was acquired here? So stay tuned for that one. Anyway, next we have here, as mentioned, so we were talking about how many tech companies are doing really well and their services are in high demand in terms of coding softwares, creating programs, upon programs that would benefit or search algorithms, especially with machine learning, all of those things to better understand your consumer, how to leverage that, how do you sell those informations to third-party companies that can sell you a product or even a service here. Now, what's interesting, according to businessinsider.com, the article states the big tech companies' salaries were revealed, and you can see how much engineers, developers, and product managers make in many companies such as Amazon, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Intel, Uber, and other companies as well. So let's take a closer look here. So obviously, uh, with the lockdown, obviously companies, I would say shifting, but has been growing steadily, right? And as shown in this article, tech firms added more than 80,000 workers in the United States alone during the first half of 2021. So I mean, there's a surge of demand, and in particular, the company Google, which is the parent company of Alphabet, hired more than 4,000 employees in the second quarter alone. And there were 300 open tech jobs that were posted last June. So let's take a closer look at the different companies on how much they're willing to pay for for the best people in the market here. So let's see here. So you have, let's start with, was it IBM, or was it, there you go. So you have Google software engineers, which makes $300,000, which is pretty hefty amount, right? And if you look at it closely, so a software engineer is offered over $300,000. That's a pretty significant amount, right? Not only that, if you're a vice president for engineering, you can earn even higher, significant, almost close to $500 million. And even a senior vice president for the company has even higher salary, close to 3/4 of a billion already, around 650,000 here, which is, that's not chump change here if you think about it. So meaning there is a high demand, and obviously if you're Google or any other tech companies, you're always trying to get the best people to do the best job to get the best result. Let's take a closer look. So we have other companies here. Yes, we also have Amazon here. If you take a closer look, uh, since Amazon is known for their cloud services, the Amazon Web Services is another. So if you're a cloud solutions architect, you can be paid in the range of between 90,000 to almost $200,000, depending on the locations here. And what's interesting here, let's see here. Yeah, so not only Google, not only Amazon provides a high salary, you also have Apple that pays a pretty hefty sum. You know, obviously Apple is known for being able to market their product, whatever the product they're just selling. So you need to get the best people to market your products or services here, and they're willing to pay a hefty sum of a little over $300,000 here, which is, you know, no small feat. And you also have marketing managers that earn almost $250 million. And then obviously if you are marketing senior director, you earn slightly more, a little over 300,000 here. So apart from Apple, we also have there you go. We also have Microsoft. It's another example that pays really well in terms of their software engineers, sales managers, and even researchers. So if you look at their profile here, they pay almost 200,000 or more at high-end jobs. They also pay even more, $250 million, for positions like sales manager. So meaning, and obviously Microsoft has a vast portfolio in terms of their business, not just in what I call this, in the software with Windows. They also have the gaming division and other services here. Now, who else is next? I think we have Uber. Yeah, there you go. So even Uber pays a high premium for their top people, right? So they pay senior engineers, which can earn well over $200,000. Data scientists can earn lower, but still pretty high, $150,000. And you have senior product managers can make about almost $200,000. So obviously many of those companies not only pay a high salary there, but also they provide a high uh, bonus for accepting the job. And obviously many others offer equity. You can own part of the company there, so obviously it entices you to so that they can be competitive with other companies here. Now obviously if you look at the other companies, you also have Intel, IBM. You know, all those tech companies are offering very competitive prices in terms of salary. So you know, if there's a trend that we need to look at, it's the tech business, and they do pay a high premium for those people if you're interested, especially if you're in that realm. So you know, you'll tend to do well. But obviously it's not all good and dandy. If you look at it, even though you're paid a high salary, obviously it attaches the high responsibility of being able to perform under pressure. And obviously the work hours is not just going to be a regular 40-hour work week. You'll be expected to do more and more, and question is, can you handle the stress with the amount of money you're getting paid? That's why there are a lot of, you know, tech employees that are staying only for a short period, then they move on to the next one, and to the next one, and to the next one. But either way, the industry as a whole is doing just fine. But the question is, can that be translated to other industries as well? Maybe it all boils down to a law of supply and demand here. Anyway, continuing. So next we have the gaming companies like Bungie and Ubisoft. Now they're known for the games like Destiny, as well as Tom Clancy's. Even you have other games like PUBG being thrown here as one of the games that they have issue with regards to cheating. So according to TechTimes.com, those companies have filed suit against professional cheat distributors. So meaning there's a company that actually do distribute cheat codes to help users have a competitive advantage in a sense. And what the company is stating here is that it's costing them millions of dollars. So do they have merit in regards to filing a lawsuit here. So let's see here. So as you can see, Ubisoft and Bungie, makers of Destiny, as I mentioned, Tom Clancy. Now, obviously, cheat codes is used primarily to have a better leg up in terms of the game. Now, typically, it depends on the type of game. Like in those games, first-person shooter, it's more on a competitive advantage so that you can win the game, whether it's better abilities, better weapons, and so forth. Now, question is, why is cheating considered bad in for those companies? Now, typically in previous past, if you were to look at games like SimCity, they even condone that, and you have popular games like Grand Theft Auto, wherein they give you a plethora of cheat codes so that you can, enjoy the games further to your heart's delight, and it's accessible. So why is it in this case that for those company they are making exceptions, that why is it that they're not for the cheating in a sense of making the game more enjoyable or easier, so to speak? Well, anyway, so let's get into the teeth of the companies that do sell the subscription. So what they do is sell a monthly subscription of cheats in Europe. So it has different tiers of access ranging from 25 to 30 euros. So the point here is to get the best out of the players and opponents in each match, and are elusive of the security set up by both companies in their game. So meaning they're trying to find loopholes to give you that competitive edge. Now, my issue here is, how is it that the company like Ubisoft is costing money here? Now, is it because that, to gain access certain weapons or abilities, you have to pay for that? And my question here is, why does a player have to pay for it if they've already paid for the full game? You could look at other games that, in the case like I think the Spider-Man game, they offer you a lot of features, especially the skins, to make it more aesthetically pleasing, the different suits that Spider-Man wears. Then if EA were to produce that game, they would ask you to pay for, I don't know how many dollars every time you want to choose a different skin. But in the game itself, it's given. You play as you play along the game. If you meet certain achievements or goals, then you are rewarded by giving that skin. And it just looks like that the company is being greedy here of trying to milk every nook and cranny to generate an extra ounce of revenue here. Because if you made a game enjoyable, which is what's supposed to be, and then let's say you want to give that additional feature or weapon or whatever feature it is, then make it harder for players to access it. They have to grind and grind, and then you give them option to pay. Then what's the benefit there? Now, obviously, others are enamored to just shortcutting the process and just, pay that amount, whether it's $5 or $10 or even more, so that they can access the weapon or ability right away, which is, that's not fun in a sense. Yeah, the company will make money, but eventually the game will turn sour because if there's going to be cheats to be played, then everyone can cheat. Or if they want to use an ability, then everyone should be allowed to use it. So the gaming community will manage themselves. So question is, if companies like Ubisoft and Bungie want to monetize that, then why not make a better game? Because if it's a better game, regardless of with cheats or without cheats, players will continue to play it. Like in my case, I play an older game, the SimCity Deluxe. So it has games there. So if you want to enjoy the game, make it easier, you can do that. But I would play it nonetheless because it's a compelling game. Or maybe if it's Grand Theft Auto, now it's been built in since when it started in Grand Theft Auto 3, right, all the way to the latest version. That if it's easy to enjoy more the game, whether there's cheat codes or not. Obviously, it's a different experience if it's for single player versus multiplayer. Make it, level the playing field. None of those paywalls that you have to pay to grind out. Similar how EA does with their FIFA Ultimate Team, right? To build the best players or your characters, you have to grind it out over and over, and it takes tens of hours or even hundreds of hours to be able to achieve a certain level of success there, which is, that's not a game anymore. It's kind of like work in a sense. But we'll have to wait to see what the courts decides with regards to this ruling, because if this were to be considered as illegal, unfair, then does it mean that all games will not give provide any more cheats? Imagine playing Grand Theft Auto without the cheat codes. That would be a terrible experience, especially for novice players who's trying to take up the game, right? That's why you give them the flexibility, right? So you can enjoy the game whether you're playing it with cheats or without cheats. And there are different sets of rules if you're playing in a multiplayer game, right? Anyway, we'll see what happens there. Now, even though, as mentioned in the article, that even though cheats are not technically celebrated or frowned upon, but it's part of our culture, meaning I think that I was watching a game before. It's Hollow Knight. So there was a gaming community that does speed runs where they try to finish the game in as fastest time possible, or they put a lot of constraints by making it more harder, limiting your ability. And some would do cheats. Yeah, you could do cheat. You could do cheat, making yourself invincible. But obviously, the gaming community would frown upon that. So, obviously, it what do you call that? It nullifies in a sense, or it discourages other people from cheating. So it depends on the type of game. So question is, the company has the right to sue those company that's just using the market based on the needs and demands, right? Otherwise, the company will not exist if there's no need for cheats and codes to get the leg up in the game here in particular. Anyway, maybe it's only applicable due to the online games because it's very highly competitive, and that it should be skill based rather than just cheats per se. Anyway, continuing with the theme with games, here's another interesting development. I don't know if you're familiar with the game Dead Space, which I've seen and played the first part. It's a horror type third person game. So according to TechRadar.com, the Dead Space game is going to have a remake, release date, trailer, and platforms that's going to be showcased, and everything that we need to know. So we'll take a closer look at that one. So for those who are familiar with the Dead Space, it's similar to how Resident Evil works, but it's in space, and rather than first person, it's a third person experience. Similar how the original what do you call this, Resident Evil started with the Resident Evil 2 and Codename Veronica and 3. Anyway, my apprehension is, should they make a remake of the popular game? Now, excuse me. Even though the first game did well, but upon releasing the sequel and the third one, it did poorly and even bombed. So I don't know what's the goal of EA here, trying to recapture the glory here. But the question here is, will the game be the same as before, what made it successful, or will just make a game that is, that would appeal to a masses, but that would disrespect the gamers who followed it from the very beginning? Because at the end of the day, if you want to sell a lot of games, you have to appeal not just to a majority, not just a majority, to a casual gamer, but to those who actually supported your game in the first place. And according to them, they want to heighten the levels of immersion here by using the latest engine as mentioned, the Frostbite engine as mentioned. But we'll see, right? And what's concerning here, they stated that they want to improve the game story. I mean, yeah, the story is important, but at the end of the day, it's all about the gameplay, right? The concept of, you have to cut off their limbs, those necromorphs. So that's a innovative way of gameplay. Try to make it interesting. If it's an immersion like a horror genre, similar to how Alien Isolation works, that's a great experience, even if a short one. So it's not perfect, but at least it gives you that immersion, so to speak, like how you watch it in the films, right? And what's interesting here, according to the producer of Dead Space, Philip Ducharme, he mentions that the Dead Space franchise had huge impact. Yeah, it had a huge impact in the survivor horror, but they changed their theme into a more a action third person shooter rather than focus on the horror genre, which is kind of disappointing here. Question is, will they follow the same path or will they change the narrative here? And according to them, they mentioned that as we look to modernize the game, and that's a scary part. How will you modernize the game now? Unless you try to make it more aesthetically more appropriate for the present, but changing the details of the gameplay mechanics, what make them popular in the first place, we have to wait and see. Anyway, they say that they've reached out to dedicated fans and invited them to provide us with feedback since the early stage of the production to deliver the Dead Space game that they want. We have to wait and see because they could all say all the right things right now. At the end of the day, don't pre-order games anymore. Wait for the reviews to come in and wait and then see if the games that they promise to sell or to for you to play, like Cyberpunk 2077. I think that's the lesson that everyone needs to understand, that never trust a company on their word alone. Let their actions speak for themselves, because if a company takes advantage of of our good relationship, they will take advantage. And it only takes one mistake to destroy that image, which what CD Projekt Red did. So question is, will other companies learn from that lesson, like EA, even Activision, who's been in hot water recently? Anyway, as mentioned, so the Dead Space 3 uh, did flop in retail. So meaning the direction of what the company wanted for that game was not, meaning they didn't listen with the gamers here, because what made the first one successful did not translate into the succeeding or sequels there. They should have maintained that immersion of the horrific experience, being in a space by yourself, and then you have to deal with those necromorphs here. Anyway, maybe it's a way for EA to replicate what Capcom is doing with the Resident Evil franchise here. So at the end of the day, question is, what type of a game will Dead Space be? Will it be a first-person shooter or will it be a survival horror game here? I tend to prefer the survival horror mixed with a little bit of shooting, because they have the Mass Effect series. If they want a good storytelling with with action on as a secondary, not a primary, that's another game that that is another separate discussion altogether. Anyway, next we have here, as mentioned, now for all of its benefits that Apple provides to its users, providing great experience in terms of smartphones, tablets, what do you call this, with their desktops and so forth, right? Now, according to dailywire.com, Watch Dogs sounded the alarm after Apple revealed, here's the kicker, they plan to upload a software into your iPhones that can scan users' photos. So isn't that a bit of invading your data privacy, which I thought was important to everyone? I thought Apple was advocating for data privacy to protect your interests. Anyway, let's take a closer. So what they plan to do, is it correct? Let me see. So the privacy watchdog, as mentioned here, they stated that when Apple mentioned that they will be uploading a update software so that they can scan for images of child abuse. Now, obviously, no one wants children to be abused, especially online. So it may be a noble idea, but the question here is, as mentioned here also in the article, that it creates a backdoor for users' private lives. So where's the data privacy here? So you're going against what you just mentioned previously. So if it starts from one idea, let's say you wanted to stop child abuse, how about pornography, to something else, and on and on. So you can keep on creating the list. And who's going to watch the watchdogs here, or the watchmen in a sense, right? Who's going to oversee what the company is doing, whether it's considered legal or illegal, right? And can the government in time regulate this? Obviously, if you open this Pandora's box, there's no putting it back. The day, if you're a consumer, how comfortable are you? The fact that you have Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook keeping track of your data already on your actions. It's another thing invading your data information that is stored in your phones, tablets, or whatever devices, which they can seem to do now in the future, which is an update. They'll hack through your devices and skim through. Now they say they're going to keep it confidential, but what's stopping them from going through your other information and go beyond the scope, right? It's kind of scary here, but anyway, now according to the Financial Times, they also mentioned that uh, the Apple intends to install the software for American iPhones as of the moment to scan for child abuse imagery. And according to the People Brief on its plans, raising alarm among security researchers who warns that it could open the door for surveillance of millions of people with personal, which I tend to agree. So question is, what gives them the right? You wouldn't imagine, I wouldn't suspect that if you're Tim Cook, you wouldn't like it if a company like yours would be invading your personal private information and look at your photos here, right? Obviously, everyone has their own skeletons here that they're not comfortable with. So anyway, and according to Apple, it mentions that it will evolve and expand over time, which is another concerning fact. The fact that you're mentioning that it would evolve, meaning it could go to something more serious, to other aspects, which is how are people supposed to know what are you looking at, what are you not looking at? So what's stopping for looking the entire date, your entire data set or photo? Why stop at photo? Maybe you could look at video, audio, and so forth, just like how the NSA is working, right? So it's just it's just becoming more the norm in terms of company practices, which is, I think there has to be a boundary in terms of what a company can and can't do, even though they have good intentions. I think the one with Apple selling the eye tracking device, right? Even though so you don't lose your keys, but it gives a way for devious people to keep track of those people without even knowing it, because not everyone has an iPhone. And obviously if you don't have an iPhone, let's say an Android device, would they recognize that there's a device within their persons that's being tracked? So it's kind of alarming what the direction that Apple is doing here, right? And it's not only that, but the company is claiming that the software only provides significant privacy benefit. How is that significant? The fact that you're going through my information without my permission, that's not privacy here. Now obviously they're always saying here that they're only looking for the abusers here, right? Those who have those photos, but that's not the point. That don't we have rights to freedom of speech, of photo? So who are you to decide what is allowed and not allowed? You're not a government, you're not a judge. That's why giving more power to companies like Apple and Google, it's kind of concerning, especially if they're a duopoly in the realm of their respective companies. That's why they need to be heavily regulated so that they don't overreach their bounds. I mean, for all the benefits that they have provided, it's still kind of concerning. And according to a professor in security engineering at University of Cambridge, we have Ross Anderson, who stated that it is an absolutely appalling idea because it is going to lead to distribution bulk surveillance of our phones and laptops. And you know, if it starts from there, it could go to other realms. And as mentioned to them, they admitted themselves that it can go to something else. What's that something else? So eventually, when you open your phone, when you update it, they could already look at everything that you're doing here, your profile, what activities you do, and they're generating profit out of it. What's in it for us? Should we buy their products? Should we continue using their software and so forth? Which is kind of concerning, which goes back to our main dilemma. That's why having options is always important, Because if you want to leave the Apple ecosystem, what's your option? Android, you have Google, it's the same boat. Outside of those two platforms, we have no more other options. Anyway, according to New York Times, they mentioned also that the iPhone operating system will soon store a database of hashes of known child sexual abuse material provided by the organizations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Now, obviously, the idea here is sound, right? For those people who are doing TVs, but it opens Pandora's box, because if you start a small segment, it can always affect the rest without the rest knowing it, which is kind of concerning, right? That's why you have rights. You have to go to courts to be able to do it, not with just a simple update. Anyway, and what's concerning, if there are a certain number of matches in the phones that will be shown on by an Apple employee, so anyone in the Apple company could be seeing this, deciding the fate of that individual. What if that matching was incorrect, right? How foolproof is the system? Is it 100%, just like the full self-driving that Mr. Elon Musk is promoting? Nothing in our technology right now is 100% foolproof. What if it were to make a mistake, it were to match an individual that is not a child abuser, and then you're going to report it, you're going to drag that name? So, you know, unless they can iron out the system, which I'm very against it in the first place, needs a lot of discussion and debate, but whether a company like Apple can do this. On Apple's part, they said that the approach is meant that people without child sexual abuse material on their phones will not have their photos seen by Apple. But again, if you start looking at people's photos, it could also you could also program the software to look at other aspects, like which individual is using Apple devices, which Apple individual is not using Apple devices, so they can learn from that data, so they know how to market it. So that it always opens a can of worms that is advantageous for the company, obviously detrimental to the user experience, which is I'm totally against. So if they're saying, according to Apple's privacy chief Eric Neuschwander, if you're storing a collection of child abuse material, yes, this is bad for you. But how about the others? How 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 can you guarantee the safety that it will not go beyond? And you can ask Mr. Tim Cook here if they can answer that, because I don't think they can find 100% solution that they can guarantee. What if it makes a mistake, right? It makes a mismatch here. It's creating a precedent here, which is, no one wants to deal with here. And even Edward Snowden, right, chimed in. According to his tweet, he mentions no matter how well intentioned, Apple is rolling out mass surveillance to the entire world with this one, which is what's going to happen. It's going to look like mass surveillance. So it's not just a photo. Maybe you could activate the phone device and you can scan or look at what the individuals are doing here. So similar to, I think, I saw TV series Point of Interest, wherein you can access anyone's devices, cameras, phones, whatever technology, to your heart's content, and who's controlling it. And if a company like Apple is controlling, who's monitoring them? Should the government be monitoring them in the first place? It's not as if they're doing a bang up job of being able to safeguard the interests of all citizens, not just in their country but in other countries as well. So we will have to wait and see of if this will be pushed through, or will they receive backlash from their users that this is not what we want, right? Unless the consumers wanted those features, then Apple might have a way to implement this, but I don't know. Anyway, finally, for our last story, so we were talking about the world is now into fitness, right? Being conscious of staying fit. No one wants to get sick and be spreading the virus, so to speak. Now, in the article here at gizmodo.com, are we ready? Is the world ready for a health tracking earbuds? So similar to how a smartwatch works. So let's see here. Anyway, so the earbuds is not just a typical earbud. Actually, it looks like more an AirPod Pro earbuds, which is now had an added feature with a fitness focused part. So it's Amazfit's new Power Buds Pro. Yeah, the name is is just copying from how Apple is labeling their product. Anyway, so the feature that they're incorporating is the ability to track workouts, monitor your posture, warn you when your heart rate gets too high, so you don't overburden your heart, and measure your hearing. Now, one interesting note here is it's not that expensive, but not that cheap as well. Around $150, or roughly less than 10,000 pesos. So will you be interested to purchase this? Now, obviously, being health conscious, especially if you're a health aficionado and active, having a smartwatch, isn't it enough? Do you need an earbuds to keep track of it? And would you use those earbuds the whole day round? Anyway, so in terms of design, as you can see here, it has similarities with an AirPods Pro here. Now, the difference here, it's slightly bulkier in a sense. So obviously comfort might be an issue for you. Now, the interesting here is the connectivity. It has a USB type C connectivity, which is always a good change here. Obviously you could use different tip sizes, ear tip sizes, so you can adjust to the size of your ear there. Now obviously it has one of the features, it has good ANC, noise cancelling, and the battery life is good. Now, question is, will you want those features integrated? Now, for me, I always prefer over-the-ear headphones like the Sony XM 3000. They now have the 4000. Then you have the Bose QC35. They now have the 700. So it depends on preference. Now, if you're going to use it for daily activities, for making calls and so forth, it's possible. But the question here is the health tracking feature enough to convince you to buy those products? Now, obviously, it's not catered to everyone, but if you're looking for something of this nature, then it would be a good buy, so to speak, right? So, especially if you want to have it in one device rather than have several devices attached to your person, then who knows. Anyway, at the end of the day, is it an excellent buy? So, if you're looking for a budget one, it looks decent enough for me, and there are other alternatives that you could always buy for something much less. You have the Jabra Elite if you're looking for, but the question is, does it have IPX rating, meaning is it waterproof or even dirt proof here? So you decide as to whether would you consider buying it in the long run for your daily activities. Well, I'm happy with what I have here. Anyway, that concludes another episode here. So thanks again for watching. Come back again on Friday for more business news. Anyway, so if you're interested in checking the full article on the topics I've discussed, I'll leave the link in the description below. To help support this channel, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Same time, same channel. Take care.